Welcome back, friends. When this episode airs, I will be on my honeymoon and away from social media for a couple of weeks, so I just wanted to drop a quick reminder that you have 1 week left to purchase your Wendigo, Jackalope, and original cameo designs from the merch shop. They likely won't be available until mid-next year unless we hit 400,000 subscribers before then. Doesn't look like it though, so if you're wanting something to celebrate Halloween or you want to gift it to a friend for the holidays or a birthday, now's the last chance to snag it until mid-next year. Please know, whether or not you do or can purchase merchandise, I sincerely appreciate you being here to listen to these stories. And if I may request something of you, hug your loved ones today. The people that support and love you are irreplaceable and won't be around for forever. Now, on to what really matters. Moving is a stressful part of adulthood, but it can open the door to new beginnings. 25-year-old Virginia Ortiz was ecstatic to move into her new home in Rochester, New York, with her 4 children. But not long after they relocated, tragedy struck. Today on Dark Matters, the unsolved High Street fire. Rochester, New York. Virginia Ortiz was born into a large, tight-knit, and loving family, and she even helps raise her own sisters. They were a unit beyond immediate family, their dedication to one another encircling all generations, including Virginia's 4 children. The oldest, 9-year-old Cayleigh Ortiz was a 5th grader at Kodak Park School 41, the same school Virginia attended while growing up. 6-year-old Willie Nelson Jr. had just started 1st grade there as well. A lover at heart, Willie always had a smile on his face, was kind to everyone he encountered, constantly playing and taking an interest in superheroes and video games. Cayleigh and Willie fought like any brother and sister, but loved one another and always cherished their time together on quiet school bus trips. Cayleigh Nelson was 5 years old, just a year younger than his brother, and was followed by the baby of the family, 3-year-old Amia Nelson. Cayleigh was fiercely protective over Amia, whose favorite pastime involved getting into her mother's makeup collection. Willie was always around to make sure his younger brother knew right from wrong. Virginia, an excellent cook, often turned down friends' offers to hang out because her love and dedication to her children outweighed any other obligations. Her children were her life. She loved playing with them and reading to them. And friends understood. They were honored to know their friend was such a funny, kind, and caring mother. Things became especially busy in the summer of 2016 when Virginia, Cayleigh, Willie, Cayleigh, and Amia moved into their 4-bedroom house on High Street, excited for the new venture. It didn't take long for the siblings to settle in. They'd already made friends with the neighbors' children, and Virginia was enjoying life on the quiet residential street. But in the pre-dawn hours of one September morning, things were anything but peaceful. Early morning, Saturday, September 17th, 2016. Before sunrise, a fire starts on High Street, quickly consuming the Ortiz's residence. The exact time the fire started isn't known, but we do know there were 6 to 7 people inside, including Virginia, Cayleigh, Willie, Cayleigh, and Amia. According to family and friends, Virginia initially made it out with Cayleigh, and the other residents. However, after realizing Willie and Amia were still inside, she ran back into the blaze after them without a second thought. 5:30 a.m. The Rochester Fire Department receives a call of a residential fire with people trapped inside, and they are on the scene within 3 minutes. They pull up to an inferno. The entire back of the home and a car parked next to the home are completely engulfed in flames. Inside, they find Virginia sheltering Willie and Amia, all barely clinging to life. They are rushed to the hospital, and as the sun begins to rise and neighbors wake to the chaos, they watch firefighters try to tame the blaze for 80 minutes. Approximately 9 a.m., Virginia's sister, Heaven Meehan, wakes to her phone ringing. It's her brother who tells her about the fire. In disbelief, Heaven calls her other sister, only to learn more devastating news. Virginia and Willie passed away from their injuries, and Amia is in critical condition with burns to 90% of her body. The devastation that follows, the screams, the nausea, and the crying, hit Heaven all at once, but unfortunately, the pain was only beginning. The residents who had escaped and 3 firefighters were transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. This included Talia and Cayleigh, who witnessed the horrific loss of their mother and brother. Family gathered around Amia's bedside at Strong Memorial Hospital, hoping for a miracle. Sunday evening, friends and neighbors gathered in front of the burnt home for a vigil, telling stories of those they'd lost, laughing and crying, and praying for Amia's recovery. Unfortunately, Amia Nelson passed away on Tuesday, September 20th, compounding the family's pain and investigators' determination to find answers. In the aftermath, the devastated community desperately wanted to know if this had been a horrible accident or the work of a dangerous individual walking free amongst them. Authorities sent the burnt car to the Monroe County Crime Lab for evidence testing, but the results of those tests are not currently public. However, Deputy Fire Chief Willie Jackson did reveal the Ortiz's home had 4 working smoke detectors. He found this strange, saying, "When you have 4 working smoke alarms, people get out. We don't know how fast the fire moved or how fast it intensified, so it's difficult to say whether they had the opportunity to get out." Then came Thursday, September 22nd. Police announced that the blaze that killed Virginia, Willie, and Amia was intentionally set. The case was now an arson and homicide investigation. To preserve the integrity of the case, authorities couldn't release the exact location where the fire started or potential motive, but said they were reviewing a large amount of video from neighbors and nearby surveillance cameras and implored anyone who had any information about the fire to come forward. Over 2 years later, police seem no closer to finding their killer or killers than they were in 2016, though they have had some leads. In 2017, investigator John Brennan said the following: "There was a person of interest that passed away, but again, person of interest. We're not at the point where we can say yes or no." Authorities reviewed the evidence and didn't have many witnesses since the fire began before most people were up yet. And despite a $10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of the person or persons responsible, nobody has come forward. The only potential perpetrator family could think of was a woman from Virginia's past. This was the only enemy she had, and the nature or state of their feud isn't publicly known. I wasn't able to find any more information about this woman, and it's not clear if she was the person of interest police mentioned earlier or not. Something mentioned in passing in my research struck me as odd, and I wanted to make sure to include it. A neighbor mentioned High Street experienced house fires before the Ortizes moved into the neighborhood. 2 houses down from the Ortiz house had previously caught fire, as well as another across the street. I wasn't able to find information on these other fires, their damages, if they caused any loss of life, if they were accidental or arson. I just thought it odd the street had a couple of previous house fires before the Ortizes even moved there within the same vicinity. As to whether or not they're the work of a serial arsonist or the family was targeted for a personal reason, we likely won't know until more information becomes publicly available. One thing we can be sure of is the void left behind in the wake of Virginia, Amia, and Willie's deaths, for the community, for law enforcement, and for family. Virginia's neighbor had to explain to his children why Amia and Willie would not be returning to play with them again. Friends, grieving and in disbelief, took whatever comforts they could. Knowing Virginia sacrificed herself trying to save her 2 children offered some solace, even though none of them can be replaced. Cayleigh and Cayleigh, who'd lost their home, everything they owned, and their mother and siblings, still had a loving support system and are currently living with relatives. Family runs the Facebook page Justice for Virginia, Willie, and Amia in hopes that someone will come forward with information. There's been no arrests or updates in the case, but the community has not forgotten Virginia, Amia, and Willie, supporting the family's fundraisers for funeral arrangements, the surviving children, and a headstone. Police officers and firefighters on the scene that day remain haunted by this case. Lieutenant Frank Umbrino, the commanding officer of Rochester Police Department's Major Crimes Unit, said, "Quite frankly, it's extremely disturbing, not only to the firefighters who responded, but to the investigators currently conducting the investigation. I don't know if there is any explanation that could make sense. I am waiting for the phone to ring because this community needs to step up and somebody needs to call us." If you have any information regarding the fire on a high street that occurred on September 17th, 2016, that took the lives of 25-year-old Virginia Ortiz, her son Willie Nelson Jr., and her daughter Amia Nelson, please contact the Crime Stoppers at 585-423-9300 or the Rochester Police Department's Major Crimes Unit at 585-428-7157. Special thanks to the Patreon family. In light of the demonetization of most new Dark Matters and Nameless episodes, their financial support is crucial for the channel's mission to spread awareness of cold cases, including Virginia Ortiz, Willie Nelson Jr., and Amia Nelson's. If you are interested in becoming a patron, information is in the description, but even if you only continue to support by watching, thank you. Thank you for giving Virginia, Willie, and Amia's case a moment of your time, and my heart truly goes out to their family. I can't imagine what Cayleigh and Cayleigh are going through, and with such a tight-knit family, I imagine it still hurts to not have answers. From what I saw, friends were devastated at this loss of a dedicated mother and her children, and all we can do is hope someone finds it within themselves to come forward and put this to a rest so closure can begin. And no matter what you choose to believe or what you speculate, I ask you only for respect in the comments below for Virginia, Willie, and Amia and their family. And remember, though these may be dark matters, the darkness always matters. Thank you for watching the video, and to those of you who live near Rochester, please share this with your community. Maybe someone knows something. Don't forget to pick up your Cameo merch by next Thursday, and you can click the link to the merch shop in the description. Thank you for your continued support. Please stay safe, friends, and have a good night.